So, car photography, something that's super, super popular. A lot of people love to do it, but aren't exactly sure like what lenses to use, what angles to take, things like that. Because you're shooting a car that maybe a lot of other people have taken photos of, finding unique angles can be kind of difficult. So today I'm going to show you some good tips for car photography. It could be a little bit difficult to photograph a stationary object and make it kind of look unique and look cool. So today I'm going to show you some different ways to do that, some different angles and some different tips and techniques to get some banger car shots. I wish I had like a Lamborghini that I can use today. I don't, so I'm going to use my car, but it's pretty dirty, so I got to go get a car wash first. Normally I wash my car by hand. I don't really like these ones at the gas station, but this one is contactless, so it's gonna have to do for today. I don't have time to wash my car. Let's go. All right, so I just pulled up to a parking lot that I found, nice and quiet, so allow us to kind of get some sick photos. So let's go set up. Wow, I literally just got it washed and man, those contactless ones are garbage, but I guess it's a little bit better than it was at least. All right, so the first kind of shots that I'm going to start with are ones using a wide angle lens. I'm using my 35mm, but if you have something that's even more fisheye, this can be even cooler. So the first few shots I'm going to want to take are these close-up wide angle ones. And using a wide angle lens here allows you to really kind of get close and create that almost fisheye effect and get a lot of the details of the front of the car, which is pretty sick. With a wide angle lens, I always find it helps to get nice and low. And when you're taking these wide angle shots, I find it's helpful to try and ideally have a bit of a nice background. In my case, it's not really the nicest. I'm just in a parking lot, but you'll see if I take the shot from this angle, I have the kind of building in the background and it's just not as nice as I take it from this angle. Then you get more of the sky and the trees. So even if you don't always have, you know, a beautiful sunset or a beautiful skyline behind, just kind of taking a bit of time and looking into the composition can be very helpful. All right, so we're just gonna quickly switch lenses. So I'm gonna take out my telephoto lens. I'm taking out my 70-200. And this is funny because a lot of people think, you know, you're taking photos of a car, it's super close. Why would you wanna use a telephoto lens? Well, let me show you. So using a telephoto lens can really create a sort of like movie cinematic look with the compression. Obviously you have to move back really far, but it's gonna be worth it, trust me. So I'm using my telephoto lens here to create a huge compression in the background. And look what happens when I take this shot with my telephoto lens versus the wide angle lens I was just using. Again, you can get really creative with how you use these shots. So you can take just one of the front headlights. You can go off to the side and take some shots from there. So just because you're using a telephoto lens, it doesn't mean you necessarily only use this for wildlife or for long distance subjects. So a telephoto lens in car photography is really cool to create some unique angles that not a lot of people get to often get because obviously you have to be pretty far away. So on car shows, it could be a bit difficult, but when you have access to it, it looks sick. So now I'm just gonna switch back to my wide angle lens for a sec, because I'm gonna show you that not only taking photos of the car, but the details of the car itself can be some really cool photos. Again, keep in mind, I'm shooting my Elantra GT right now, so it's not necessarily the coolest car, but when you're shooting, you know, old school cars or supercars, things like this, these little details like the headlights, the logos, the badges, the exhaust, these things are gonna be a lot cooler than what's on this. So don't neglect tiny details on the car. So shoot things like the logos, the headlights. Taking side shots of the mags is always really cool because a lot of cars have really expensive mags and sometimes, you know, rally tires, things like that. The badges on the back, the logos on the back, the exhaust. And depending on where you are in the scenery around you, you might want to play with the aperture. So for example, if you have this beautiful, crazy skyline or sunset in the back, you might want to use a higher aperture, like something like, you know, f8 or f9 to be able to capture not only the car in focus, but also the background. In my case, you know, I have the sky if I'm shooting from low, but this isn't the most glorious looking background. So I'm gonna typically keep my aperture lower, like f2, f2.5, so that I'm able to kind of keep the car as the main focus, have a nice bokeh so you don't really see the random houses and fence in the background, things like that. So depending on where you are, time of day, what's in the background, if there's other cars around or people around, you're gonna wanna play with your settings to take the best photo for your situation. And there's also little things like positioning the car. If you're at a car show, typically cars will have their hood popped open or they'll be positioned in certain ways. But if they're not and you have access to it, the tiny positioning of a car can make a big difference. So I'm just gonna move my car at a bit of an angle, make sure I have the sunroof open and turn the wheel, and you'll see how this will change the look of these photos. All right, so all I did was move the car a little bit, make sure the sunroof was popped, which in this case it already was, but look how this is gonna make a different photo than some of the other ones. So finding these unique angles when you're taking photos of a stationary car is really what's gonna make your photos stand out. It's hard to take photos of cars because sometimes you'll have 15 people taking photos of the same car, but making your photo look different or have your own style or be unique is kind of difficult. But one last thing that can also help is taking photos of not only the outside of the car, but the inside of the car. So again, my car is nothing necessarily special, but it still has some pretty cool features that will, make some cool photos. So again, especially when you're shooting old school cars or supercars, taking photos of the inside is something that some people forget to do, especially on old classic cars, the stick shifts, the steering wheels, that leather interior. So these kinds of photos are also just gonna help your photos stand out a little bit, and you gotta just try and find some unique angles. So all that to say, when you're taking photos of cars, try switching lenses, go from a wide angle to a telephoto lens. Change your aperture depending on where you are. Go from a lot of bokeh to the background completely in focus. Look for the little details. Don't only just take one photo of the car, take photos of the tires, of the emblems, of the steering wheel. In car photography, there's a lot of different hidden features on a car that you'll only find when you really look for them. So that's it. Hopefully you learned something from this video. If you have any other questions, drop a comment. I'd be glad to help you out. If you want to see some of my photography, check out my Instagram @thesneakylens. And if you like this video, check out some of my other videos on my channel, all about photography and other tips and tricks. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.